All right, welcome in everyone to another episode of the SurgeCast. Zach, opening night is here. It is the Carolina Hurricanes Megashow tonight because we have a lot of things to talk about. The Canes need a new president. Seth Jarvis has been featured on Face Off inside the NHL. Canes have a new hashtag for this season. Opening night rosters have been released. We'll give y'all some overs and unders on this season and preview not only opening night, but the next few games as well before we record again. Zach, how are you feeling knowing that hockey is back?
Honestly, Rich, I am so glad it's back. There's no more ifs, buts, playing games on paper, nothing like that. It's just games are starting, games are going to count now. Now it comes down to can you do it on the ice? There's no speculations. There's no, well, on paper they can do this. Oh, we're going to predict this. Like, no, it's just now it's going to go and actually do the dang thing. So I'm just glad that we're going to talk about games finally. We're actually going to talk about real games that are going to count towards points in this 82 game marathon grind that's going to be the NHL season. But how are you feeling about this, Rich? The fact that we're finally here.
It's crazy. I feel like yesterday it was just June, July. We were waiting for Ehlers where he was going to sign. And then in a blink of an eye, we are here for opening night. Yeah, like you said, no more on paper. Everything is on ice. And we will get to the on ice predictions, previews, and all of that. We got to talk about some off ice stuff first, though. A few things to talk about. Starting first, friend of both of our programs, Doug Warf, abruptly resigns as president of the Carolina Hurricanes. This happened on Monday, October 6th. The Canes have some big shoes to fill because Doug was absolutely incredible, worked his way up through the organization. Hopefully, we're able to keep in touch with him as he continues on to his next venture, which from his LinkedIn post from the other day, he is starting his own consulting company in the meantime, Soundside Strategies. So make sure y'all are giving that a follow, a look, being able to help Doug out in any way possible. He also called himself, for the first time in his career, a free agent. Zach, what are your takeaways from this move as Doug Warf resigns as president of the Carolina Hurricanes?
Yeah, it was definitely crazy. I think it pretty much took everyone by surprise. And I know the other beat writers, Ryan Henkel and all of them, Chip, Alexander, and even talked to Corey, even Corey Laviolette. We're all just kind of like, okay, wow. No one really kind of expected that. And the fact that, when he posted his thing, it's like, yeah, I don't have anything lined up right now. And it's like, all right. So it's gonna be very interesting to see what's next for the Carolina Hurricanes. They look for a new president because you got Doug, you got Fork who's doing the construction and all that stuff, and now it's okay. What are you gonna do with Doug Warf's position? Wish him nothing but the best. Yeah, hopefully we keep in contact with him because he was, very friendly, very helpful. Giving us some insights on some behind the scenes stuff with the Hurricanes and how all the process goes on. So I wish him nothing but the best, and hopefully something comes up soon. But yeah, it's crazy that it's just like the day of the opening night roster drops, and then it's boom, you get this, bombshell. And it's like, okay, well, a couple of days before the home opener, now we got to go find a new president. Yeah, it was very surprising. Like, what was your thoughts or reactions to that?
I was stunned because we were just messaging with Doug the night before he finally got back to us with Cat's injury and everything. He's like, "Oh, like I'll be able to help you guys." And literally the next day, all of this came out. I feel like if you go back, if you're able to now, see Dan Lataraka, got his name right this time. Look at his tweet. There's some cryptic messaging from the Canes and kind of maybe how their people are valued there. But that's for another time, another episode. So that's a little bit interesting there to think about that. But I was completely stunned because again, like we were just in Doug's office 3 weeks ago, and then all of this happened. So my main question that I wonder about though through all of this is obviously after Don Waddell left the organization, they split his role into three roles. Are they going to have Brian Fork fill the interim president role as well as CEO, or are they immediately trying to fill that president role, whether that's moving someone up internally or if they're going to find someone outside of the organization and bring them in to that president role and keep kind of the three-headed monster that they have going compared to everything that Don was doing. So that's really what I'm wondering right now is what direction are they going with their executive team?
Yeah, no, it'll definitely be interesting because, like you said, it's you're so used to having when what Dell was doing pretty much everything. Now you split up into the three parts. Now it's one spots up, and where do you go from here? I mean, of course, Tom is even more busier now because of the fact that he is a part owner of the Portland Trail Blazers of the NBA. So now he's got a bunch of stuff he's got to take care of too. And then it's where the Hurricanes go from here. There's been a lot of directional changes within the organization over the last, I would say, few weeks for sure. So it'll be interesting to see what's next for the Hurricanes in terms of that.
Yeah, we'll be keeping an eye out on everything happening with the Canes executive team. But we will table that conversation because while we're going from bad news, we're going to the good news and some good entertainment in the form of Seth Jarvis. He had his episode 5 in season 2 of Face Off Inside the NHL, streaming right now on Prime. Honestly, it was an awesome episode. Being able to see Seth so vulnerable, seeing some memorable, funny moments as well. Zach, for you, what was the best moment from that episode with Seth Jarvis?
I think it's the one where it's the one I got a good laugh out of for a few minutes was the fact that he went to his back to his childhood home with his brother Caden, and the fact that he was trying to get his vision board out of his bedroom, and there's just this big 6-foot poster of Sidney Crosby on his door. And he's like, "Oh no, don't show that. That's embarrassing." And then what happens? You see him at Four Nations at practice, and who's he next to in the locker room? Sidney Crosby. So that was pretty funny, but I think that was definitely one of my best moments. It was just, I had a good laugh out of that because it's just funny how it worked out. And then now how Seth pulled the whiteboard up, now we're seeing all these memes are coming out. So he's giving us some meme material of holding a sign up and just you put a message on it. But yeah, that whole interaction was it was pretty funny, but that was probably my favorite moment. And then I think the first couple minutes of the episode 2, where he's like, "Oh, this is gonna be a cooking show. Great content," because he's trying to figure out chicken nuggets and talking about cereal and all this stuff. I just thought it was pretty funny. The whole episode was great, but yeah, I think those are my 2 favorite moments. But what about you, Rich? What were your favorite moments from that?
It's nice to know that such an elite athlete has such a relatable cupboard pantry. Like that,
Yeah.
just looking in that, Kat and I had a very good laugh about that. We definitely laughed at Sidney Crosby at the same time. That had to have been amazing for him to be seated right next to his childhood hero. You don't get that very often. I also loved both his and KK's comedy when it came to the Mikko Rantanen trade.
On the golf course, yeah. Oh,
yes,
man.
you have to respect it for KK to say, "Is this our fault?" When Mikko got traded, signed the deal with Dallas. Jarvie talking about his pass that didn't connect to Mikko or his shot. One of the two.
It was scoring the goal. Yeah.
Yeah. So for them to just be able to laugh about that moment was kind of awesome to know. Even guys like that are able to be sarcastic about such serious, interesting moments. So for me, those were the 2 takeaways. Again, if you have not seen it, Inside the NHL season 2 is streaming on Prime. Go check out the Seth Jarvis episode. There's other episodes on there as well. Kat and I watched the Sidney Crosby one. That's pretty good as well. We're steering away from the Kachucks one because we've had enough of them already, just with the way the Panthers have done their stuff.
I'll say this: I did watch the first. I'm gonna watch all the episodes regardless because I'm just a sucker for hockey docuseries and documentaries and stuff. So the first one was more so about Brady more than anything else. So I think that was a pretty good one. Still mentally preparing myself for the Johnny Gaudreau episode because I know I'm gonna lose it on that one. Because someone who has a very huge soft spot for the Jackets, just being from Ohio, so they're kind of like a pseudo team I keep an eye on, just because. So that whole thing is gonna be interesting. But I would say it's funny too in that episode where he's hanging out with because his buddies drove all the way from Winnipeg to go see him win the gold medal. win the championship. And they're like, oh, the guys want to meet you. They're like, wait, who are the guys? And he's like, oh, the whole team. And Connor McDavid's walking out there, just dapping them up. And I'm like that's just crazy for those guys. They're like the one of the best hockey players in the world is coming out wanting to meet them and dap them up and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool how all that went down. But yeah, I understand where some people are kind of annoyed with it because the fact that you didn't really get any Hurricanes teammates talking about Seth. It was basically you got kind of like a little segment of Mikko Rantanen after he got traded to Dallas, and then you kind of heard from like Sarah Nurse and Pete Blackburn for most of the episode. So I can see where people are kind of like, it'd be nice if we actually heard from the actual Kings guys talking about Seth rather than just outside people, and then Mikko getting his few minutes of information. The fact that you showed them losing game 3 and then game 5 in the conference final. You didn't see them win game 4 and all that. Kind of felt like the last 10 minutes of the episode felt kind of rushed right through the playoffs. That's what it felt like to me, at least. But I thought it was a good episode regardless, because it's good that we actually got some representation for the Hurricanes.
Overall, it was a good episode, good exposure to get Jarvie out to the world, everything that KNX knew through hashtag 4Nations, through, I'm going to call it the hashtag trader situation with Mikko. But we have another hashtag to talk about, Zach. Hashtag Carolina culture.
That was a good transition. I'll give you that one. That was pretty good. That was
hashtag Carolina culture is the new hashtag for the Canes this season on X/Twitter. Previously, it was Raise Up. They had their collab with PD Pablo in the intro video 2 seasons ago. Oh, wrong shoulder. It was Cause Chaos. We've had a few different iterations of the hashtag. We were told to possibly expect Raise Up to stay around for a couple of years. It did not. So here we are with Carolina culture. Zach, Kane's Twitter is on fire about this. Are you in the same crowd? How are you feeling about this hashtag? I know for all your reporting, you'll have to use it regardless. But to me, I'm sure it could have been phrased in a different way. And/or with everything, all the rumblings people have been talking about within the Canes organization, off the ice, potentially executive team. That's not really the best hashtag to use, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts on this hashtag for the Canes, at least 25-26 season?
Yeah, it is interesting when you look at it too, because it feels like the Hurricanes are the only ones that really change it every year, where other teams kind of just stick with their same. I know for Colorado, it's always been Go Avs Go, or it's Go Kings Go, or Let's Go Pens. There's ones that they're kind of consistent. I feel like the Hurricanes are doing something every year. I remember when Red Revolution was the thing back during the Dark Ages, and then he got Take Warning, which I thought was a really good one. I always loved the Take Warning one. Of course, this is all pre me becoming, media and stuff like that. So I think it was kind of like the Cause Chaos was kind of like one of the earlier ones that I kind of got used to doing 2 seasons ago. And then, of course, last season Raised Up. So I think since becoming a writer full time and again doing all that, I think this is my 3rd different hashtag with the team. So it's been an interesting progression going from Cause Chaos to Raise Up to Carolina culture. I still think get used to. Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't think not a lot of people. I know some other media guys maybe don't use it as much. I try to use it as much as possible because it's what the team is going to use. So I'm going to have to try my best to use it. I know some people aren't a fan of it for sure. But to get to the long-winded answer to this question, it's interesting. After you see the video that they dropped, because they always do those hype videos going into the season, I can see where they're coming from. Because they've built the culture that they have. They're kind of the Carolinas team because it's not just North Carolina. They're trying to dip into the South Carolina region as well, because they understand that South Carolina, there's some fans down here in South Carolina that are Hurricanes fans. So I think they're trying to be more exclusive to what the Panthers do and combine the Carolinas together. It's like, hey, we're the football team for both states. So I think the Hurricanes are trying to fit into that. Of course, I'm just guessing what the direction is, but you can see what they were trying to go for here. Honestly, I'm just indifferent to it. I mean, it is what it is. The team's going to do what they're going to do. But I know I've seen a lot more lukewarm to people aren't a fan of these of the hashtag. Like some felt like they should stay with raise up or kind of went back to cause chaos or take warning. But for me, it's like it's a hashtag. It is what it is at this point. I just use it for reporting purposes at this point. Like, well, how do you feel about it, Rich? Because I know for you, you're more of like, hey, I'm just a fan. It's like I'll give you my opinion.
The thing again, I will always bring up my Chicago Bears fandom, and it's a shame that Bear Down is an officially held, I believe, trademark of the University of Arizona.
Yeah.
So the Bears have to change it a little bit. So that's been tough from my standpoint. That for the same reasons I've never had a consistent hashtag to use in the hashtag era for my teams. I would like to see the Canes stick with one, like you said, just knowing that there's a consistent one you can always go to, no matter how simple it is. Making that known that yes, when you say this phrase, you're talking about the Carolina Hurricanes. I'd like to see that more than it's not necessarily how bad this one is, even though at times I feel like you could probably blend in the iffy culture that the Carolina Panthers, even the Charlotte Hornets have had, if you're talking about Carolina as a whole. So that worries me a little bit with this one, but I just want to see a consistent hashtag be used for the Canes. But not our decision, Zach. I don't even know whose decision is now.
Yeah, because I know some fans like it. Kane, they could have been like, "Oh, you could have went with Kane's culture." Then it's like, okay, then it's kind of more specific to the Canes itself, which would have made sense. Or, yeah, I don't know. That's more of a we would have to ask Dan LaTorraca of like who would be the person that would go about that, or however within the marketing team and stuff like that, or maybe it's someone else who really knows. But yeah, it's like I said, I'm indifferent with it. I just use it for reporting. But my thing is, I wish it was just consistent. Like I said, the Avs are the same, the Kings are the same. There a bunch of these teams kind of keep the same ones. Like Minnesota Wilds is pretty simple. It's MN Wild. Like that's pretty much it. Or Nashville is Smashville. But it's a consistent one every year. I just want the Hurricanes to pick just one and stick with one. Like we don't have to keep changing every year. That's kind of like my only take on it, really. But it is what it is.
Some inconsistencies off the ice. Hopefully, moving forward, especially based on the contracts, we'll have some consistencies on the ice. And part of that consistency is the opening night roster that was announced. You have your potential 13th forward, maybe Jesperi Kotkaniemi, maybe Mark Jankowski, based on the way things are going. Your 7th defenseman, likely Mike Riley. Your newly signed goaltender, is it Bussy or more Boosie? Which one's Zach?
It's Brandon Bussy.
Bussy, okay. Well,
it helps. It helps. Yeah, it helps. I covered the Providence Bruins a little bit last year for an AHL site I was with, so I got an understanding of those guys. But yeah, it's Brandon Bussy. Yeah,
Bussy as your 3rd goaltender, which after hearing reports on practice today, he might be your backup for the home opener versus the Devils. But Zach, overall, your thoughts on the Canes opening night roster?
To be honest, it kind of felt like when you've gone through the training camp and just seeing what the main roster was and all the changes, and where there's some potential positional swaps, you only saw maybe one the entire time, and that was Hall and Blake for a practice, and it was immediately swapped right back. No one really cracked that top main group at all, so I kind of felt like it was sort of a done deal right from the jump. Because Rich, I know I think last year was your first full year. I know it's with Rod Brind'Amour. It felt like if there's not a lot of changes throughout camp, you kind of had the feeling this was going to be the group going into the season, unless it was like a Nino Niederreiter gets a foot injury, Seth Jarvis comes in, or the team's under cap restraints. Here comes Jackson Blake, but they both did earn their positions because they made it hard for the team to come in, not to send them down. So I think this one where a lot of the team is kind of signed through their rosters, there's no reason for them to bring up a Bradley Nadeau right away or a Charles Alexis Legault and give them some time because those guys are still young. Why rush them and give them 8-10 minutes a night where you can give them 16, 17 in Chicago. So I kind of feel like this was going to be the roster to be. Bussy, that was more so of a insurance policy unless they lost Kane and Primo to waivers, which they unfortunately did to the Toronto Maple Leafs because now he's on their opening night roster, which as of recording, they're playing against the Canadiens. So you did lose Kane and Primo, but you get Brandon Bussy. And I know a lot of people are kind of like, oh no, we don't have a goalie with AHL experience. Unfortunately, he doesn't. However, he does have some really good numbers in the AHL with the Providence Bruins. A guy who's always in the 900 save percentages. Playoff numbers are off the charts too. So he's a good guy to have. I just don't think the main Bruins, never gave him an opportunity. But I think he's someone that is a good replacement for Primo. You lost him, but overall for the roster, it was. I wasn't really surprised. I kind of felt like this was going to be your group throughout training camp, essentially.
Yeah, outside of the third goalie flip, this is pretty much what you expected. That's why you signed Mike Riley. Your forwards were always going to be what they were. People wanted Bradley Nadeau potentially, but as soon as he was brought back down to the AHL, the forward group was essentially set in stone. I am interested again because of Jesperi Kotkaniemi's injury that he sustained to his face eye area. If he is going to be a part of that opening night lineup, if it's only because of the injury, or if it's Rod potentially demoting KK. Again, this is going to be the storyline, I feel like, a lot of the season. What that's going to look like, if it is going to be Jank there, if KK is going to be in the press box for opening night, which we'll get into opening night shortly. We got some over-unders to get into in a second. But quickly, Zach, yes or no, is KK skating opening night?
I would say I hate to give a committal answer to this question. Unless they feel like he's not really 100%, maybe if he's still dealing with an injury thing with getting this stick to the face eye area. Unless they don't feel like he's 100% and they want to give him just like another extra night to kind of, because you got the game Thursday, then you have another game Saturday, then you go on your very long State Fair road trip. I can see the Hurricanes give him an extra day off just in case he's not 100%. But I have a good feeling he probably will be on the opening night roster. I don't see why I don't get the indication of why they think it's a demotion to put him as your 13th forward when he still has 5 years of a contract at 4.82 and Jankowski's in his last year. And the Hurricanes really hope that KK, fills the role that they really need him to do. I don't think there's ever a demotion. I think it would be more so of, is he 100% willing to go, or do you want to give him a night off just to give him an extra day of rest to, get better, essentially. But I have a strong feeling that if I had to guess, I think he's skating.
Okay. We'll find out shortly after this episode drops on Thursday versus the Devils. We will get into the previews and predictions for the 3 upcoming games for the Canes. But first, Zach, we have overs and unders, a new segment to the SurgeCast that we will bring up periodically throughout the season, which is very simple. Over or under, Zach. So got quite a few scenarios for you here. I will answer them as well. Starting off with over under 109.5 points that the Canes will finish the regular season with. Over the past 4 seasons, the Canes have finished with 99, 111, 113, and 116 points. Are we over under 109.5 points for the Canes this season?
Oh, that's actually kind of a tough one because I can see them. They're going to get over 100. I believe the Hurricanes are going to do that. 109.5. That is.
I know that's why I bumped the number up.
Yeah, because if you said like 106, it would probably be a lot easier for me to answer this one. But 109. I'm always optimistic. Give me the over. I think they're going to hit 110.
The year of optimism. I'm going to go with the over as well. I could see it being around that number. I think from the East, at least in terms of not only the projections I've seen, but with the injuries with Florida as well, outside of maybe Tampa, um, I don't know how well Toronto's going to rebound. I think the Canes have the potential to be the number one seed in the
Hmm.
East, so I can
Yeah.
very much see them reaching that 110 number this season. Um, moving along to a couple of players, Zach. Over under 89.5 points this year for Sebastian Aho. He has a career high of 89 in the season. And I'll start it off with I'm going to ride with my bold predictions. I think Aho hits 100. I think Ehlers unlocks something in him to where Aho goes crazy this year. Um, how are we going to look in April when we look back at this? I don't know. But I have so much faith that the Ehlers Aho Jarvis line is going to do insane numbers.
Oh man, because he said career high is 89. I think it was once. I think every other time's been like what, low 80s, upper 70s. I think if as long as you get the consistency of Aho with Jarvis and Ehlers, and with him on the PK and the power play too, give me the under, but I think it's going to be 87, 88. He's going to be close. I just don't see 90. I mean, I would love to be surprised and say that I would love to see him hit 90, but I have a feeling it'll probably be more like an 87, 88 point season out of Aho, which is still pretty good, all things considered. Yeah. Nothing to scoff at with an upper 80s, but 90, I would love to be surprised, but give me 87, 88. So just slight under for me on that one.
Okay. Moving along, I just mentioned him, but over under 64.5 points for Nick Ehlers with a career high of 64, which
over.
Yeah, based on what I just said, I'm going over as well. I think that line is going to be special.
Well, the thing is, too, he had 64 after playing 69 games. Like, that was almost a point per game on a guy who missed a good chunk of the season. Not a good chunk, but enough to where he only played 69 out of 82. If you give me 75 to 80, closer to the 80 side of things, he easily gets 70. No issue for the Hurricanes. So, yeah, give me the over on Ehlers on the 64.5 with no problems. I think he's going to hit at least 70 for the Canes this season. Easy answer for me. Automatic over for Ehlers.
I can't wait to see what he does this year. But moving on to goal, we have two Pyotr Kochetkov over-unders. The first being, which I believe Corey Lavalette has lost his Twitter, so I couldn't come up with the exact number from last season.
Yeah, it's a whole thing going on with his Twitter account, unfortunately. Yes, he's mainly on the Blue Sky now.
But over under 15.5 times Pyotr Kochetkov loses his stick this season.
Jeez.
I feel like last year I saw 16 at least.
I don't think did he lose it? No, I mean he played like one preseason game. I'll say over, just because I mean I think he's definitely matured a lot. I don't think we're going to see it drop as much. But just for the fun of it, sure. Give me. What did you say it was 15.5?
Yeah.
Give me 16. Yeah, I'll say it's okay. I'll say it's a slight over just for the fun of it, I guess.
Okay, I'm gonna go under just because of my answer for the next question. Over under 41.5 games started in net by Pyotr Kochetkov.
Oh man,
which is the question of, is he starting more than half the games this season?
In the thing too is, and you know me, I'm such a defender or a truther, I guess, how you want to phrase it, of the goalies for the Canes. If we all remember last year throughout the podcast, they were never the problem. And I consistently have to keep defending Pyotr. 41.5. Yeah, give me the over on that one. I I understand they want to try to do more of a balance to keep these guys fresh, but if you were trying to figure out your goalie of the future as your 1A with Freddie in his last year of his going into not his last year, going into this 1 year deal that Freddie signed, and the fact that you're looking at the goalie market next summer with Peter going into his last year of his contract, I think this is a season where you have to get more of a runway of 41 games or less. I think you got to give him at least, if 50 is the max, fine. I will take 50, even 45. Just give me a little bit more than 41 and a half. So I'm saying over just because this is a year you have to figure out who your 1A goalie is. And I think Peter can't be that guy. He just needs the room to do it. He needs the leash to be able to go do that.
You obviously have the health concerns, quite frankly, of both guys in that. So that may limit it one way or another, or might boost another guys one way or another.
Yeah.
I think Piotr has matured, but I don't know if it's enough for him to avoid an injury that he otherwise shouldn't have, which may happen this year. So I'm worried that may happen, where it's another thing where he's so far out of the net he collides with someone again. Hopefully I'm wrong about that, but I could see something like that happening to where it knocks that number to the under. Two more here for over under. Tell me, Zach, over under 2.5 games played in a Carolina Hurricanes sweater this season for Bradley Nadeau.
2.5 games. So if we're counting garbage games at the end of the year where the Hurricanes probably clinched and all that stuff, or if there's an injury, 2.5. Give me the over.
Okay.
For me, for what he's done, and if he gets under another hot run with the Wolves, and let's say we're going towards the Olympic break, or if we're going to trade deadline, and if there's an opportunity where they're like, hey, this guy's really popping off still, that we've seen enough out of him, let's give him a shot. I think even if he comes in the end of March, early April, I think he plays at least a good majority. He plays a good amount of games, even in April. Yeah, give me the over. Give me the 2.5 over.
I'm going to go under. I think he may get a game or two in April when they call everyone up, kind of that rush there. But I don't know, something about Jankowski and KK being that flip for the potential of 13th, even though they're primarily centers down the middle. Like, I don't know where Bradley Nadeau, again, it's the main issue why he didn't make the rosters. Where does Bradley Nadeau fit on this team? But
Exactly,
that's just my own thought. Hopefully we don't need to see him for the simple fact that everyone stays healthy. But that is to be seen. But the last over under, Zach, over under 1.5 trades made this season by Eric Tulsky.
I'm trying to think, because he did 2 last year. No, 3. Yeah, 3. Because it was the big trade for Mikko, and then the Mikko trade for Stank, and then trading for Jankowski. Over. I think we're going to get 2 at least.
I'm right there with you. I think Tulsky swings for the fences. Now, for who, I don't know. Obviously, McDavid signed his unbelievable contract. So he's locked in for 3 more seasons. Eichel just signed his contract. We also saw Kaprizov getting locked in as well to his contract. So that UFA pool that we thought was going to be unreal is suddenly drying up very fast for the class of 2026 free agents.
And also, too, there's rumors that the cap could go up to 107 instead of 104. So now you're opening up another $3 million in cap space for these teams next summer. We could be entering an era where a lot of guys probably aren't moving as much as we're used to, because now with all these massive bumps in the cap going up, you could be seeing a lot of teams being like, oh, we can actually just keep our guys. So it'd definitely be interesting. So yeah, that class is starting to dry up a little bit. So we'll see. But
I
But
think the trades can get made. I also think at the same time, Tulski somehow keeps enough picks to where I think he offer sheets 1 or 2 guys next year because the RFA
oh yeah,
class is still loaded in comparison to the UFA class. So there are some guys there that I can see Tulski making a run at for the
100%.
RFAs.
I forget. I saw something recently too where they were talking about RFAs. They were, I think it was Bouchard or someone. It was someone out west where the Hurricanes were looking
Yeah.
at offer sheeting him, and then the team kind of had a panic, and then they had to kind of pivot towards Miller as like their next defenseman to go get, because I think the team that they wanted to offer sheet was like, nope, we're not going to let that happen and just sign their guys. I think it was Bouchard, but I can't. I know it was one of the Western Conference teams kind of had a panic sign to get the Hurricanes off their back. So I could see it happen. There's a lot of good RFAs that the Hurricanes can go after next summer. So, and we have the picks to do it.
That
So
they
that could
do.
be
And
the way to
then
go.
so dangle the Canes have like almost no picks in the 2026 draft. But at that point, might as well use that first round pick if you're going to trade for a guy. But
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the well is. I mean, the roster is a good majority of the roster is signed for at least 3 or 4 years. Yeah, I mean, outside of maybe Gossesberg, who's going into his last year of his contract next year, a lot of those guys are pretty much. Most of the team is pretty much locked up. Do you even want to go and try to trade for draft picks at that point? Because your cupboard is pretty stocked, even down in the minors and through the system too. So you don't have to have 5 or 6 picks, but I don't know. We'll see. But I could definitely see the Hurricanes making a couple moves to kind of shore up some roster spots. I mean, give some extra depth to this team. So yeah, I could see at least 2 for sure.
we'll see what Eric Tulski does this season, but that may be down the line come March, come the trade deadline. We have the preview opening night coming up. We are going to send it over to our sponsors real quick, and we will be right back.
Football is back, and so is your shot at big wins. With DraftKings Pick 6, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL, your game day instincts can score you real money fast. Here's the play. Just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, from breakout rookies to elite QBs, and unlock the upside every snap brings. The better your calls, the bigger your payout. Looking ahead to this weekend in the NFL, you pick Puka Nakua, more or less than 100.5 receiving yards. Jalen Waddle, more or less than 65.5 receiving yards. And here's the kickoff bonus. New DraftKings customers get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry on your first pick set. This season, play your player instincts. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN. Play just $5, get $50 in Pick 6 bonus picks. Make the call. Ride the upside. In partnership with DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much to our sponsors for supporting the program. Zach, like we talked about before, opening night's here, and we have some previews and predictions to make for these games, starting off with opening night. The Carolina Hurricanes take on the New Jersey Devils. Last season, the Canes went 2-2 versus the Devils, and each team won both of their home games in this series. But then we fast forward to the playoffs. Canes win in 5 games in round 1. This season, the Devils are primarily predicted to be the number 2 team behind the Canes. Some people even have the Devils winning the Metro this season. So for you, Zach, opening night here versus the Devils, kind of what are your expectations and who are you keeping an eye out for on both New Jersey's team and for the Canes?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, honestly, because when you look at the Devils, their big question is, can they stay healthy? Because they lost Nico Hischier for a good part of last year. They lost Jack Hughes for a good bit. It's, even Luke a little bit. Now they, Siegenthaler, Dougie Hamilton, all those guys were out. Now they got word on Wednesday that Brett Pesce was back at practice. He might be ready to go too. So I think you're getting a very healthy, for the most part, Devils team coming into this game. So for me, I think the key things to worry about is limit the penalties, because you don't want to give the team who finished third last year on the power play multiple. If you keep it to 2 penalties or less, then great, you did your job. But if you give them 4 or 5 chances, then you're running into issues, because this Hurricanes team, we know how great the PK is. They've been top 3 every year, but you don't want to give them so many opportunities, because the Hurricanes are always a better 5-on-5 team. And I still think they are going to be that 5-on-5 team. It's just, they got to make sure they limit the penalties and make sure that they're not, leaving guys like Brott or, the Hughes brothers or Hischier or, insert other guy here that, you got to kind of worry about. So those are some of the guys I'm going to have to keep an eye on. Like I said, a lot of them are really healthy. And of course, Jacob Markstrom. Markstrom had a great year last year. You got to make him work, because you let him stay stagnant and just you're shooting pucks at his chest. That's gonna make it an easy night for him. You got to keep what the Hurricanes did in the playoffs last year. Keep him moving. If you keep him moving, going left to right, then I think you have the opportunities. It's about the quality shots over the quantity. The Hurricanes can shoot the lights out, but are they quality shots? You can have 40 shots a night, but if 20, 25 are hitting his chest, what are we doing here? So I think that's what you kind of have to do. So there's a lot of the guys in the Devils to keep an eye on, because they're coming out to, kind of right their not so great season last year, even though they made the playoffs. The Hurricanes, obviously, you got to keep an eye on Nikolai Ehlers, debut with the Hurricanes. Curious to see how he does on his first night, with Aho and Jarvis. He's going to be one to watch. K'Andre Miller, another one to watch as well, because it's, he played no preseason games, and this is his first kind of tune-up, essentially, is right from the rip. It's opening night, and you're paired with Jalen Chatfield, which is a great guy to learn from. Both of them got speed, but Jalen's got that more of that two-way game compared to what Miller does in terms of offense, even though Miller does hit and throw some block shots as well. Alexander Nikishin is another one to watch. I mean, he's a guy that, welcome to your regular season debut. I think with Gostisbehere, they're going to try to ease him into it more. A lot of indications are saying that they're going to have him just play 5-on-5. They're not going to throw PK or power play right on him so early, because they don't want to just overwhelm him with too much. So don't expect to see Nikishin on special teams. It's going to be a lot of 5-on-5 play. So I think Ehlers, Miller, Nikishin are the ones to keep an eye on. Logan Stankoven, how is he going to be as the 2C in games that are going to matter? So I'm really curious to see how he does. Then obviously, Blake and Jarvis, those guys, how they're going to do and stuff like that. So there's going to be a few guys to watch out for the Hurricanes, at least.
Yeah, you pointed them out a little bit. I think for me, it's for the Canes specifically. What are the top 2 lines bringing? Mm-hmm. What is Ehlers doing for that first line? Is he making Aho more selfish, right? Is he finding him for those shots to where Sebastian Aho is actually shooting the puck? Are they finding Seth Jarvis in open situations? Moving on to the second line, like, what is Logan Stankoven bringing to 2C? And the question that I'm looking at for most of the season is he able to unlock the potential of Andrei Svechnikov? Because we have been talking about, when is Svech having that breakout season? We've asked it season after season. Are we finally going to get it? And is Logan Stankoven that guy to unlock it for the Canes? So I'm really interested to see what the top 2 lines are going to do. As for the Devils, you're kind of looking at the center versus center deal. Same thing with Hughes, with Hischier. Like, that's a really solid 1-2 punch that the Devils have. What are they doing versus the Canes centers? And you mentioned it too, Zach Markstrom. He caught fire versus a kind of bad New Jersey team in the playoffs, but yet he kept them in that series and in every game for so much longer than they should have been. So if he comes out hot on opening night, the Canes are going to have some work to do as well. And then throughout the season, we're going to talk about it all year. Can they stay healthy? The question that's plagued them all year long. You said it. everyone said it. Can they stay healthy? I think that'll kind of determine the outlook for this Devils team and if they will be able to stay on the Canes' heels all season, or if they may fall back to that 3 spot in the Metro or even a wild card position. So
what's crazy though too with the Hurricanes play them opening night in October. We don't see them again until 2026. You get them twice in January and then once in March. Like that. Like last year, I thought it was insane that we played the Devils all 4 times before you even went into the second half of the season of the calendar year. Now it's okay. Here's your 1 game, and then your next 3 are in 2026. Like there's no in between. It's either you play all your games now, or we're splitting them up, and your last 3 are in 2026. And here's your one time you get to face them in the 2025 part of the season. It's bonkers to me.
I'd much rather prefer this format because, again, the Canes team, Mikko was on and off this team before he even played the Devils again. Like that's wild to think about.
Yeah, he never saw the Devils. He never saw the Devils once at all.
No, so it's good to see teams in your different iterations, especially before a much imagined projected playoff matchup eventually between these two teams. You could more than likely see it happening in the 2026 playoffs. But opening night is here. Real quick, do you have the Canes winning this game? I do. I think especially with a Lenovo Center crowd behind the Canes, I think this is a game where the Canes come out, they win. I don't know how well the new guys will look, but overall, I think the guys who have been there, done that, they're going to guide this team to a win on opening night.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be, we're going to get some learning curves throughout the season for the new guys, but I think they're going to do fine. It's just, can you manage your emotions? That's kind of the big thing. And, we saw it last year. There was a lot of slow starts for the Hurricanes. I don't think this is a season where you can have a slow start. You got to be gas on the pedal right from the rip. I think in the Brind'Amour era, I think they've won, 6 of 7, or they're pretty high on winning home openers in the Brind'Amour era. So I think there's another one right there. I do have them winning this game. I think we're coming out of opening night 1-0.
So that is opening night. Both of us have them winning that game. Moving on to the game that I feel like we'll both pencil in as a win as well. Saturday, October 11th versus the Flyers. Last season, the Canes swept the Flyers in the regular season. Flyers did add Trevor Zegras in the offseason. Did they also add, I'm going to botch his name, Dvorak?
Oh, Christian Dvorak, yeah.
There we go.
Christian Dvorak.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Look at me getting names right. They also added head coach Rick Tocchet. So a few additions compared to last season. But overall, Zach, is there a guy or two you're looking at this Flyers team to where if they perform well, maybe a hat trick, that's the Flyers game to win? Or how are you seeing this? Because this is also another home game for the Canes before, like you said, they then take that West Coast trip, the State Fair trip. Canes After Dark coming up. But we have one other home game to talk about before they get there.
Yeah, Charcuterie is always a pain in the butt for the Canes. Like he is someone who always pops off for them. So keep an eye out for Couturier. Matvei Michkov, I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. He's someone who did really well last year. I'm curious to see what Zegras does. It's under Tocchet, different team, new system. I'm kind of curious to see where that goes. But yeah, keep an eye out for him. Like I said, Michkov. Can Jimmy Drysdale and those guys in the defense kind of step up? Because right now I feel like it's kind of Sanheim, maybe one other guy on the defense. That's kind of the big question mark. Goaltending, yeah, you had Dan Vladar, but it sounds like he might be the backup to Sam Ersson. And Ersson had a kind of an up and down season, so. There's a couple of guys to definitely watch for the Flyers. I think, like I said, I think Couturier is going to be the one to kind of might give some issues with. But I feel like the Hurricanes are going to win this one too. I know it's Margaritaville night. I know the shirts are going to, I know everyone loves the shirts. But I think it's going to be a close one. Somehow every game with the Flyers is a close one, regardless of how it works out. But I think they walk out of the first 2 games at home with a 2-0 record.
I am with you there. I don't know if it'll be versus the Canes because the Canes typically have a tendency to lock down star players. Shout out to Jacob Slavin for that. But I think
Yeah.
Michkov, like, we'll talk about it too in the next preview, but the league is in good hands with the kids they have coming up and the stars
Oh, yeah.
that are about to form with the Ovies, with the Sids soon to be on their way out. I think the next generation is equally set up to be stars for this league. Including Michkov, which unfortunately he's in the Metro, so he's going to ball out for Philly as long as he is a Flyer. But I think he at least gets a goal in the game versus the Canes. But there's just not enough on that team to scare me, to make it seem like the game is in danger to where it may still be a close game, but I feel like the Canes overall will be in control of this game versus the Flyers.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that bottom six is kind of a question mark. How's the defense going to be? Can they help out the goaltending? Yeah, you had Vladar, but the goaltending was still an issue. I still think it's a question mark. So if the Hurricanes if they don't have a slow start against the Flyers and kind of put them away early, I think the Hurricanes could definitely get a win in this one.
So those are the two home games, and then we go Canes after dark. Some late puck drops for us coming up, as it is the Carolina Hurricanes annual State Fair road trip. We will discuss the rest of it in our next episode, but before the next time we record, the Canes will play at the San Jose Sharks on Tuesday, October 14th. One familiar face that will be in the Sharks uniform will be Dmitry Orlov after signing in the offseason for what I thought was an insane deal, but the Sharks had to hit the cap floor somehow, and Orlov was a part of that. But last season, the Canes were 2-0 versus the Sharks. I remember the game at the Lenovo Center being immediately impressed with Macklin Celebrini. The future is very bright there. They also have Will Smith. I believe both of their first-round draft picks are made the opening that roster as well, if I'm not mistaken. Zach, I think it's pretty obvious who you're looking for on the Sharks side, but any other nuggets out there for the Sharks that you may also be looking for in this game? Again, Canes after dark, 10 p.m. puck drop.
Yeah, I mean, definitely those two for sure. Tyler Toffoli's, and I want to keep an eye on as well. It'll be very interesting to see how they do with the Sharks. You got Orlov there. You got Askarov. How's he going to do in net? I mean, he's supposed to be the next upcoming guy for them. But it'll be interesting. I think it's a lot of their young guys. Like I said, there's a couple veterans to keep an eye on as well. But, I mean, I think the Sharks are going to be a little bit better team than they were last year, but I don't think they're going to be a team that's going to be making noise in the Pacific. So I do have a good feeling that if you start the road trip out right, get the W in San Jose, I think then you're kind of, setting yourself up to have a good rest of your trip. So I think if all things go right and they don't overlook the Sharks in this one, and especially how the guys deal with the travel, first roadie of the season going out to California, I think the Hurricanes do definitely get a win in this one.
The Canes should start the season 3-0. Now, will they? It's always the question to be asked. I don't know. I have the feeling the season's going to be a little different, just based on. I don't know. I just have that feeling to where they should win the games. They should. The tough ones they should pull out as well. As in any season, there's going to be a few games where you say, "What the hell happened in that one?" But that's with every team in every season. But I think, again, Canes should start 3-0. Askarov over time, I think, should grow. And again, 3 to 5 years, who knows what the Sharks look like. If it's a Canes Sharks Stanley Cup final, I could see that in the long run. But hopefully the Canes don't make Askarov look too good just because of all the shots they put on net. But overall, same thing.
Yeah.
I think a star scores. I think Celebrini scores, but we'll see with the goaltending situation. And again, who knows if it's Askarov versus Bussy in this game, depending on Piotr's health. Who knows?
Yeah, it does be interesting. I mean, they also got Alex Nedeljkovic, former Carolina Hurricane. I know Jeff Skinner's out there now too. Their defense, I mean, they had Nick Leddy. I think the defense is still going to be a question mark for them. Yeah, you got him now. You got Orlov. I'm really curious to see how the defense kind of forms up together. But yeah, the goaltending, Askarov, Ned, that's an interesting tandem to have. But yeah, like you said, it's you're going to look at Smith, you're going to look at Celebrini, you're going to look at Eklund, Toffoli, so Wenberg, another guy out there as well. So it'll be interesting. But I think if the Hurricanes just play their game to overlook the Sharks, I think they should be all right. You have to have a feeling they have to be 3-0 to start the season. You got to start that road trip off with a W. You can't go take the first 2 games at home, fly all the way out to California, and take an automatic loss right out the rip. Because the Hurricanes were not a good road team last year, and they got to get that figured out.
Well, with that said, we'll look ahead just slightly, even though we'll dive in depth in our next episode. But after the Sharks, you have the Ducks, who for whatever reason the Canes can't beat at home. The Kings, who we all remember that game and what that did to Piotr's confidence. The Knights, who again after Eichel's extension, signing Mitch, a lot of people are calling them a powerhouse in the West. Oh, and then you have to deal with the Avs, who people are also saying might come out of the West. And then you have to deal with Mikko Rantanen for the first time in a Dallas Stars uniform.
Talk about it. Yeah.
And then you come back and play at home versus the Knights again. So that is a hell of a 5-game stretch after hopefully 4 games that you should win to start the season. Hopefully you start the season 4-0 because those next 5 games are going to really tell you a lot about this team early on in the season.
Yeah, I know we'll go more in depth in the next episode, the other West Coast game or the road trip games. But yeah, I mean, the Ducks, I mean, they've gotten a little bit better. I just don't know if they're a team that's going to be like shot. Yeah, for a reason, it's like the Hurricanes always have those random teams that just have their number. The Ducks had it last year. You have to give them the reverse back. So yeah, you honestly, Rich, I agree with you. You have to be 4-0 going into that next stretch of 5 games, which includes another 4 road games and then that first home game back against Vegas. Yeah, you gotta start 4-0. Like 3-1 at worst, and I don't want to guess who that one is going to be because regardless of if it's somehow Philly or Jersey is the one and you win the other 3, okay, whatever. But you have to go at worst 3-1 or at best 4-0 because you cannot go because those, yeah, like you said, you're talking about Vegas, Colorado, Dallas. And then back to Vegas again. That is a insane run to go through. Basically a good number of teams that a lot of people are penciling in to go either win the Pacific or go win the division, and then go win the Western Conference. Like, welcome to the gauntlet. This is an early test to see where you're at as the Carolina Hurricanes. Those are measuring stick games. I know, like I said, we'll go into more detail, but I'm saying right now, those are measuring stick. Are you that team against some of those guys?
Which honestly, taking out the Oilers from that equation, if they don't three-peat as Stanley Cup appearances from the West, one of those 3 teams, probably the other team then, that's showing up in the Stanley Cup from the West.
I predicted on Locked on Hurricanes, I think it's going to be Canes Avs in the final. I have the Avalanche making the final. But I could definitely see Vegas or Dallas making there too. One of those 3 teams, I have a strong feeling are going to dethrone the Oilers to be the Western Conference representative in the Cup final. That's going to be a gauntlet just to get through those guys.
So that'll be a stretch we will worry about from Monday, October 20th through Tuesday, October 28th, when the Canes are back home. 6:30 p.m. puck drop versus the Knights on the 28th, if you didn't know that already. But we got to focus on opening night. We will see it all play out at the Lenovo Center. 7:30 p.m. puck drop. I honestly forgot about that. I thought it was 7. So
nope, ESPN Plus and Hulu. ESPN Plus and Hulu, man.
Shout out to the schedule for keeping me on track for that 7:30 p.m. puck drop versus the New Jersey Devils at the Lenovo Center. It is official. Canes hockey is back. Any departing thoughts, Zach, on opening night and the Canes season?
I'm just glad that we're finally here. We're talking about games on ice now. Talking about games are going to matter. Points are now going to start being tallied. I'm just glad it's finally here. Like, I felt like this offseason went slow because of just basically not a lot of news. But I'm just glad to be here, man. It's the best time of year where we got hockey. It's officially back, and we get to talk about the Carolina Hurricanes. So should be a fun ride, man. It's gonna be a fun one. I'm excited for it. But what about you, Rich? Any departing thoughts as we roll into another season of Carolina Hurricanes hockey?
I want the Canes to win the games they should. That's my big thing. And for the stars to shine, because at times they haven't in years past. I want Svech to be a superstar. I want Stank to stay at 2C. I want Nikishin. There's a lot of wants. I want Nikishin to win the Calder, but we'll see.
What about Blaker? What about Blaker? He's your guy.
And JB's my dog. JB can do no wrong in my eyes.
Hey,
shout
great
out to
dude.
Jackson Blake.
Yeah, no, Greg got to talk to. Yeah, I mean, probably. Yeah, I love doing that player feature with him during preseason. Yeah, great guy to talk to. So, I have a feeling he's going to hit 50 points this year. You heard it here. I mean, I've already said it a couple times on this show, but hear it again. Jackson Blake at least 50 points. Going to say it now, just for you.
I love Rich. It. I think I appreciate it. I think him and Stankoven. I mean, they're locked in together for what, 8 more years? 9?
8.
So
9 years,
2034?
9 years, including this year, and they're joining combined 8-year extensions. 9 seasons of these guys.
The chemistry is going to start this season. It's going to start through all 9 seasons, but we got to start with this season. We got to start with opening night, and we will be here with you every single week to cover the Carolina Hurricanes and everything going on this season. Zach will have you covered with Locked On Hurricanes, with the Hockey Writers, if you want that daily content as well. But for now, that is all from the SurgeCast. We will be with you guys next week as the Canes start their State Fair road trip, but we'll be able to cover the first 3 games of the season with you then. But for now, I was going to say raise up, but for now, hashtag Carolina culture in full effect. Let's go Canes.